Excellencies, the ambassadors of France and USSR, my colleague, Secretary Border Management, Shri Rajendra Kumar, Anup Verma ji from Economic Times, service colleagues from different services, business leaders from Indian industry and the public sector, ladies and gentlemen. Great pleasure to join you here today. Initially, when Anup asked me to sort of attend this inaugural session, I was a little reluctant. I thought it was a bit premature for me to be addressing this conclave since I'm just transitioning into this new role. Nonetheless, I felt that perhaps one should, make a start here in terms of what I think we should be addressing for Atmanirbharta in our defense sector. The previous assignment that I will use to hold was as Secretary of the Department for Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, DPIIT, and it has a fair amount of overlap with the defense industry in particular, whether it is in terms of ease of doing business, whether it is in terms of the Make in India procurement policies, whether it is in terms of the startup ecosystem, which DPIIT tried to sort of really encourage in this country. And most of all, it had a direct role also in licensing private industry and private investment into the arms sector in this country. And specifically, it also had a role when it comes to the FDI policy for this sector. Now, before I talk about the specifics of the defense industry in India and how we could really take it to the next level in terms of innovation and self-reliance, let me start by making a few comments about the macro context that we are living in and the geopolitical context, because the two things are now inextricably linked. This is a phase of economic nationalism across the world, of trade alliances, and a real focus on diversification of supply chains, of building resilient supply chains. Concepts like friendshoring have become increasingly prominent, and countries that used to lecture us about free trade policies essentially are getting into the kind of subsidy and industrial policy mode that they used to warn us against in an earlier era. In that context, India has tried to sort of create a policy and institutions, particularly in the defense sector, to bring about greater self-reliance in this very important sector. To start with, we started by, among other things, we created ease of doing business for the sector, not only as a cross-cutting initiative, but specifically for this sector. When I was in DPIIT, besides the licensing, we created we relaxed the norms to ensure that the licensing was kind of automatic. We started giving 15-year licenses. It is possible perhaps even to think about one day doing away with licensing, but in a country where small arms are licensed in the hands of the private individual, it is difficult to think of delicensing production entirely, but we can certainly make it much more easier for the genuine private investors who want to invest in that sector. One of the things that we could do is improve the processes so that the conferment of the license or the approval of the license should not be taking 1 year. It should be taking about 3 to 5 months at the most. When it comes to FDI, in 2020, we've allowed, even ahead of the space sector, in the defense sector, we've allowed 74% foreign direct investment on the automatic route. The figures that I remember show that about 5,000 crores has come in through that route so far. We hope that number will increase, particularly given the fact that the days of India relying largely on global imports, of being one of the largest importers in the world, those are gone. I mean, let me be very clear on this. We intend to increasingly indigenize. You will see that as part of our procurement. The numbers are very clear now. Increasingly, 70 to 80% of the around 150,000 crores of capital acquisition budget that we will have minimum over the next 10 years, the bulk of it will go to the domestic industry for indigenization, and foreign equipment manufacturers who wish to sort of get a share of that budget will have to invest in India using as the leverage the kind of ease of doing business initiatives and the FDI FDI, the almost open sky FDI policies that we've allowed in this sector increasingly. As was mentioned by Anup earlier, there has been exponential growth in India when it comes to domestic production. We've reached 1,26,000 crores worth of domestic industrial production last year. That's, I think, a 33% jump over the previous year. There's also been an exponential growth in exports, 21,000 crores. Even now, however, that is only 3% of our manufacturing GDP. So it's quite minuscule, frankly. And obviously, it can grow up further. A lot of the value of this production, almost 80%, if my numbers are right, are in the private sector. The private sector is about 20,000 crores. I think increasingly, we have to look at this as a two-horse race where both the public and the private sector contribute to the capital acquisition program of Government of India through more public-private partnerships, through taking advantage of homegrown technologies, and in certain cases where the technology is not available, of course, getting technology transfer from abroad as well. Let me also, before I end, re-emphasize 4 or 5 broad trends that I want to see in this sector. I think our procurement, definitely, it's an area that I used to do across the different sectors of the government in my previous assignment. We also used to coordinate the production-linked incentive scheme and the issue of indigenous content when it comes to production by domestic industry. Those are concepts that are very relevant here as well. We need to really ensure that domestic value addition improves in this sector by ensuring that the component manufacturers, the MSMEs in these sectors expand and grow, not just the public sector behemoths, but also the MSMEs and really creating a proper vendor ecosystem in this country when it comes to the defense industry. So I thought I'll refer to some of the figures that my department has given me to really re-emphasize some of the points that I mentioned. In procurement, now that we have a commitment to increasing self-reliance by maximizing acquisition of defense equipment from domestic sources. In the last 3 financial years, for example, we've signed 542 contracts for capital procurement of defense equipment, out of which as many as 489 contracts, accounting for 88% of the total value, have been signed with Indian vendors for capital procurement of defense equipment. Defense R&D has also been opened up for industry, startups, and academia, with 25% of the defense R&D budget earmarked for this purpose. And this is being implemented through various existing schemes. And there is also an opportunity now with this 1 lakh crore innovation fund that the last union budget had set up to complement this R&D effort. We've also, as most of you are aware, created 5 positive indigenization lists that have been notified for thousands of sub-assemblies and subsystems. These lists are expected, we hope, to give a boost to domestic industry, including the startups and MSMEs, and leading to creation of job opportunities as well. Similarly, the Srijan portal, which allows defense public sector undertakings to offer defense items to industries for indigenization, that portal has so far facilitated the indigenization of over 12,600 items till now. In our budgets, as I said, we are increasingly earmarking funds for domestic rather than foreign procurement, and that trend is going to continue. At the same time, while doing so, we need to increasingly ensure that the private sector becomes an equal partner by offering them, in my view, what they need is a level playing field, whether it is in terms of their licensing or in terms of their procurement policies. As far as foreign equipment manufacturers are concerned, our encouragement to them is to set up manufacturing facilities in India for major military systems, including transfer of technology to the Indian defense ecosystem. Some of them are already coming in, and we hope to see this trend grow because as I said earlier, we don't intend to keep spending money on imports. Our intention is that foreign equipment manufacturers should make in India, and make in India not only for India, but also for the world. The Defense Department also took an important step through the IDEX scheme for encouraging startups in the country, for which almost 1,500 crores has been earmarked in the current year. In fact, we are trying to even think of emulating and expanding this IDEX-like scheme to other departments as well. So well has the scheme done in terms of encouraging the startup ecosystem in this country. The policy initiatives that I mentioned earlier, the ease of doing business, the procurement policies, etc., those are now being backed up by the states through the defense industrial corridors, two of which in Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu have begun to show significant results in terms of MOUs and actual investment. India is also increasingly trying to strengthen its global presence across the world, including through diplomatic outreach, creating new defense wings globally to access opportunities abroad, to help friendly foreign countries in terms of access to Indian technology and Indian arms. And we are complementing this with what has been mentioned earlier by the French ambassador, with military exercises with our partner countries to enhance this partnership with friendly foreign countries. We are also increasingly focused on our border infrastructure. In particular, Rajendra, the Secretary Border Management, is here. The Border Roads Organization in particular is doing tremendous work in terms of creating robust infrastructure in our hilly and northern regions, whether it was the opening of the Sela Tunnel, the highest motorable tunnel in the country at 13,000 feet a few months back, which now provides all-weather connectivity to Tawang, or whether it is other new initiatives like the Frontier Highway. All of those are going to bring about a change when it comes to border infrastructure. Let me end by reiterating the few broad themes that I see. India is going to double down when it comes to indigenization in the next few years. We will also double down in terms of ensuring that indigenization is actually achieved, not just on paper. We intend to double down on creating a level playing field for both the private and the public sector when it comes to procurement, with increasing focus on PPPs. We recognize the need to expedite our procurement policies, and we will try to ensure that the processes are expedited, redundant processes are weeded out or made concurrent. We will double down on improving ease of doing business, not only for the defense industry, but for industry as a whole. And we will continue to extend strong support through lines of credit, etc., for our manufacturing industry, for our defense industry when it comes to accessing export markets. So with these views, I hope that this conclave will provide new insights and strategies on this theme of Atmanirbharta. With these words, let me end here. Thank you very much for listening to me so patiently.